All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to unpack a feeling that I think a lot of us in Taiwan know all too well. That sense that no matter how hard you work, you just can't seem to get ahead.
You know, if you've ever felt this way, you're definitely not alone. This isn't just some personal slump. It's a huge collective anxiety, and it's rooted in some really deep changes in our society. So today, we're going to explore exactly why this feeling of, well, futility is so common, especially for young people. And we're going to do it by looking at the very structure of society itself.
You know the old story, right? If you're not succeeding, you just need to try harder. Failure is always framed as a personal problem. But what if? What if the issue isn't you at all? What if it's the system you're trying to win in? And this is where we need a major shift in focus. We need to stop looking at individual shortcomings and start looking at the rules of the game that actually decide our outcomes. I mean, think about it. If the game isn't built to reward your effort, then it doesn't matter how hard you work. It's kind of like you're pedaling a stationary bike as fast as you can. You're exhausted, you're putting in all the effort, but you're not actually going anywhere. So, how do we even begin to understand these hidden rules? Well, we're going to borrow a toolkit from a famous French sociologist, Pierre Bourdieu. He gives us 3 key concepts that are like a special pair of glasses for seeing how society really works. So first up is this idea of a field. Just imagine society isn't one big thing, but a collection of different game boards. The education system, that's one game. The job market, that's another. The real estate market, oh, that's a whole other level. And to win, you've got to know the specific rules for the game you're playing. Okay, so if we're playing a game, we need chips, right? This is what Bourdieu calls capital. But, and this is super important, it's not just about money. He points out there are actually a few main types, and knowing the difference is the key to understanding why some people's efforts pay off and others just don't. And then there's habitus. Now, this one is a really fascinating concept. Basically, it's your gut feeling, your intuition for the game, which comes from your background and all your life experiences. It means some people just instinctively know which moves to make to get ahead, while the rest of us might be putting all our energy into strategies that, well, they just don't work anymore. And here's the magic. This is how it all connects. You've got your economic capital, what you own, your cultural capital, what you know, and your social capital, who you know. You can use one to get another, right? Like use money to get a great education, or use your connections to land a great job. But the crucial part is that the rules of each field, each game, decide how easy or hard it is to trade one kind of chip for another. Okay, toolkit in hand, let's go to our first crime scene where all this effort seems to just vanish into thin air: the Taiwanese education system. What's happened is something called effort inflation. There are so many university graduates now that the value of a bachelor's degree has just plummeted. You have to put in way more effort, like getting a master's, just to be in the same spot your parents' generation was with a bachelor's. You have to run so much harder just to stay in place. And if you don't believe me, just look at the numbers. The data is, well, it's brutally clear. Just look at that massive leap in salary you get with a master's degree or higher compared to the youth average. The return on investment for a standard university degree, it's nosedived. So that number right there, that's the new benchmark. It's the new threshold. In the education game in Taiwan today, the real prize, a much higher salary, has been moved up to the postgraduate level. And that means for so many people who stop at a bachelor's, their effort just hits a hard structural ceiling. So let's move on to our second game board, the youth job market. Because even if you do get that degree, why do so many people still feel completely stuck in low-paying jobs? Now, take a look at this. This chart tells us something so critical about how the game is set up. Over 3/4, more than 76%, of young workers in Taiwan are on a fixed monthly salary. And that right there, that's a perfect example of an effort trap. Sure, a fixed salary is stable, but it means that staying late, taking on extra projects, all that hard work almost never turns into more money in your pocket. The mechanism to convert your extra effort into more economic capital is basically broken for most people. It's the definition of running on a hamster wheel. So let's recap. We've got a degree that's worth less and a salary that's stuck. Now let's see how these two problems crash together to make those big life goals, like buying a home, feel completely out of reach. This is what we can call a structural blockage.
You could be a star player in the education game. You could be working your tail off in the career game. But the winnings you get from those games, they're just not enough to even buy a ticket to play in the next one, real estate. And here's the fundamental disconnect. Plain and simple. The economic capital, the money you slowly, painstakingly save from work, is completely dwarfed by the massive, skyrocketing entry fee for the housing game. The rules of these two games are just completely out of sync. And that question, that's what really gets to the absolute heart of the effort is useless feeling. All the success you might have at work, the thing you pour all your time and energy into, can feel totally meaningless when you're faced with a life goal that feels structurally impossible to achieve.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, I know. But listen, understanding the system isn't about giving up and just getting cynical. No, it's about empowering yourself. It's about shifting your strategy from just working harder to working smarter.
So what can you do? Well, on a personal level, first, stop chasing things that have lost their value. Think really hard if another standard degree is the best use of your time and money. Second, focus on getting chips that are rare and valuable. Super specialized skills, unique knowledge, a powerful network. And third, choose your game board wisely. Look for jobs or industries where extra effort can actually be rewarded, like with performance-based pay. But let's be real. Individual strategies can only get you so far. For real, lasting change, we have to change the rules of the game itself. And that means advocating for big-picture policies, like reforming education to value actual skills, fixing wage structures, and making systemic changes that unblock that path for everyone. So if there's one single thing to take away from all of this, it's this quote right here. Your hard work doesn't have some universal, inherent value. Its price, its worth, is set by the rules of the game and the society you happen to live in.
By understanding these rules, we can hopefully move away from just personal frustration and toward a real structural awareness. And that awareness, that's the first and honestly the most important step. It helps us make smarter choices for ourselves and maybe, just maybe, start pushing for a fair game for everyone.